because they start wildfires throughout the region, and they do so for the purpose of preserving their grip on the nation in question and furtherance of their hegemonic aims. And the most important thing is to, as Johnny said, to have unity in opposing them and in opposing the various forms of barbarity that they fund and foment in everywhere from Israel and Gaza to Yemen to now Pakistan and elsewhere. Um, so that would be my advice to anyone who is in my position. I'm not of Iranian descent. Um, I don't have skin in the game in that way. But what one should do, in addition to reading actual books on the subject matter and reading thoughtful articles on the subject matter, is to listen to those Iranians who are speaking out against the regime. And one final thing is, as I said in a space the other night, there's a lot of loose talk about, oh, well, um, Iranians who are in the United States or in Canada or in Britain or elsewhere, they should take up arms and go back to Iran. That would be a feckless and foolish course of action, because they would simply be butchered like cattle. And that would be used by the IRGC as still more propaganda to hold the populace in a grip of fear so that they don't speak out against the regime. So all of these simple-minded, light-headed, seat-of-the-pants solutions that we hear people talking about, whether it's separatism or sending people over there to take up arms against a nation that has a proper regimented military, which is one of the reasons why Western countries are so reticent to become involved in a direct military conflict with Iran, because even though I believe at the end of the day the IRGC would lose, it would not be a 4-day walkthrough affair like it was with the invasion of Iraq. So, yeah, just listen to Iranian voices. Don't fall in for any of the simple-minded propaganda that you hear, especially on Twitter, and especially when it's divisive and is pitting those of us who support Israel against those who support a free Iran, and driving all manner of fissures between us. None of that is helpful.
William, I want to ask you a great point. Do you think it will be revolution, disintegration, or liberation that will end this regime?
I was asked that a couple nights ago. Basically, some combination of all three, because someone was raising the point, and it's a valid view to express, saying, we don't want outside forces coming in and doing this or that. But the reality, as I see it, is in order for the IRGC to finally fall, there probably will have to be some sort of um, involvement from powers on the outside. Because look at Iraq, for example. Iraq was in a severe state of decline by the time the Ba'athist regime was eventually overthrown, and yet it took an invasion from without to properly bring that Ba'athist regime to an end. And I'm not someone who supported the Iraq War, mind. I thought that it was ill-advised. I thought that it led to various forms of destabilization in the region. There have been good effects from it, and those I am glad of. But I say that only to stress the point that I'm not warmongering and saying, oh, everyone should go over and start a war with the IRGC. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply speaking to the reality as I see it, which is that you can have all the activism you want, and you can have all of the efforts made by Iranians in the Iranian diaspora. But at the end of the day, the IRGC does have proper regimented military forces. It has an army, an air force, a navy, and they're not going to let go of power easily. They don't want to, and they want to spread their power further throughout the region. And so the only way that I can see the IRGC eventually being toppled is because they keep excuse my language, fucking around until it gets to the point where they have to be made to find out. And when they're made to find out, then they will crumble, and the Iranian people will be free of their yoke. But I don't think when that does happen that it will be an easy state of affairs. It won't be over like that. It will be a bloody conflict.
And just two further questions before I get everyone in. I know Sean's got his hand up, Scuddy and Ricardo and Shayan. Will what happened with October the 7th and Hamas be a real turning point when we look back on history and the Islamic Republic and the regime, that really changed things in terms of international support for thinking, you know what, we've tolerated these guys, but we can't tolerate them anymore. They're just too much. They're the kind of reward to what they actually cause and the damage that they do far outweighs. And then, secondly, in terms of what you said about the IRGC and it being, you know, proper, well, they're a military organization like the SS. Some people say to me, Johnny, once the Cape Crusader harmony goes, then the whole kind of pack of cards start to fall. Others say no, they'll just replace him, like they did with Khomeini and Rafsanjani when they got Khamenei in, and they've already got someone in mind like Mujtaba, his son, etc. Do you agree with that? The Ali Khamenei question, that once he goes, there's the real opportunity for them to be kicked out. And going back to what I said earlier with October the 7th from Hamas, will history look back on that date as being one of a fatal mistake by the Islamic Republic?
Well, I'm not an expert, but again, to my mind, I mean, they probably will just replace him because it's not. None of this is and you know that, and most of the people here know that, but the way it gets discussed all the time is as though people think this is a Marvel film. There's one big bad guy or a group of bad guys, and we just get rid of them, and then all of a sudden everything will fall down and everyone will be free. It doesn't work like that. You have people who, again, when you have regimented forces, you have people who have an interest, a personal interest, in maintaining the status quo. That is their livelihood, that is their prestige, that is their place in society. Um, it's not identical, but you can see this in Russia, for example. Yes, Putin holds an iron grip over everyone, but no one's really going to stand up to him, basically because they don't think there's much prospect of success, and also because they know where their bread is buttered. This is their life that they have to worry about, their families, etc. So no, I don't think it'll go that easily. And Saturn always eats his own children. They'll do anything that they can do to hold on to power, however deleterious it may be for the populace at large. They don't care about them. If they cared about them, they wouldn't execute them. They wouldn't subject them to draconian laws and such. As far as the 7th of October, that's that's going to change the calculus on a number of issues in a variety of ways, isn't it? Because as I've said from the outset, I wasn't surprised. The only thing that was slightly surprising was that it did happen. But then even the best intelligence agencies and security measures that are put in place can always fail at one point or another. But I wasn't surprised at the barbarity. I wasn't surprised that Hamas would do what it did, because it's always wanted to do that. But what it has done is it has shown a lot of people an unfortunate reality, which is that Jews can be butchered and raped as such because they're Jews, And this can be filmed by the very persons who carried out those barbaric acts and published to the world by the people who carried out those barbaric acts. And somehow, throughout the world, people will think, well, isn't it really the fault of the Jews? So they don't care. So people talk all the time about how what is being done in Gaza right now, oh, it will produce a new generation of terrorists. It will shape the socio-political views of people who are living in Gaza and the West Bank. Well, there's a flip side to that coin, isn't there? Which is there are a lot of people in Israel who are very left of centre, who in the aftermath of the 7th of October have come to change their political views, for better or worse. And as far as the broader effects, there's always some good to be found in the very worst things that happen. And one of the good things is that this is shedding light on how noxious and problematic the IRGC is, because a lot of people were also in denial about that, and thinking, well, you know, that if we engage in diplomatic efforts in this way and that, then over time change can be brought about in Iran. But they lost sight of the fact that Iran is meddling in a number of other people's affairs, and this is leading to broad destabilization throughout the region, and it's only going to get worse, right? I mean, anyone who thinks that in a couple of weeks all of this will be over and there'll be some return to normalcy, whatever the fuck that is, I think they're deluding themselves. Um, but the important thing is to not allow people to forget um, the degree to which the IRGC has been operating behind the curtain here, threatening the security of Israel, propping up barbaric terrorist entities and other non-state actors, posing problems for international trade by what they're doing, by giving a wink and a nod to, and more than that, really, and they've supplied weapons as well to the Houthis in Yemen. So it's a problem that has to be dealt with, and it has to be addressed from a variety of angles. Um, but it's important to keep up the focus instead of letting this all just drift away, because especially in our time, people have a very short attention span, as you said, and then just go on to the next thing. And so once the light is shone on something that is really very threatening and dangerous, not only in the region but throughout the world, really, it's important to make sure that people don't forget and to continue to shine a light on that, and to not engage in silly infighting with each other and with persons of low intellect who propose solutions that have no possibility whatsoever of actually coming about.
Yeah, great points, William. Thank you for that. Sean, did you want to comment? And then I'm going to go to Scully, and then Cheyenne, Ricardo, Cyrus, and anyone else. Do come up on stage if you want to have a difference of opinion. You want to spout whatever bullshit style nonsense. You're more than welcome to come up on stage. I always give voices to different kind of platforms of people, etc. And let's debate it. Scully, Sean, then Scully.
Thanks. So William said something that is absolutely correct when it comes to IRGC clinging into power and not wanting to lose power. But there's one missing piece into, because I agree with what pretty much everything he said, but there's one missing piece that I think it should also be highlighted. So the Islamic Republic, look at Islamic Republic like a ship, and it's a ship that along its journey it's leaked. There's been leaks, and but it's the leaks have gone so bad that they've needed to have all their crew, all hands on deck to be able to just patch up the leaks. And it's getting to a point that the leaks are so much that it's becoming more apparent that the ship is sinking. The the point of realizing the ship is sinking, some people are going to realize it first, and some people are never going to realize it. Some people are going to go down with the ship. However, with this ship that is sinking, there's another ship right beside it that's waiting. And it's a ship that can rescue anyone from the current existing ship that's sinking. The difference is that the Islamic Republic ship is a warship. The ship that's waiting is a cruise ship.
Yeah, I was glitching there. Scully, what's your thoughts on what William said, Sean said? Over to you.
Thank you. Generally agree on your first question about October 7th. I personally think that it is ultimately going to be a game changer because I think the world, and by the world, I'm not talking about, crazy people protesting against the US or anything like that. I mean like the people in power in Israel and the US, like they can't deal with this hostage business anymore. It's become too costly. And the threats that Iran provides in the region, I think, are just too great for them to just ignore. But I don't know how long it'll take. On your second question about Khamenei, I really, really don't know. I think I just don't know enough about the internal affairs when it comes to how they nominate people or how they figure that out. And I think it's pretty secretive anyway, but I can't comment on that. Can I make the other comment or do you want to just stick to this subject right now, Johnny?
Of course you can. It's a free-flowing
Oh,
conversation, and I want it to be free-flowing. So let's not have it stilted. As long as we can have a one mic kind of policy, otherwise the listening experience is not good. But let's have a free-flowing conversation, and then maybe some dramatics when someone comes up to give their bullshit. Go ahead, Scully.
thank you. And I just want to say that after several days of having what I see as people with an agenda who are non-Iranian just coming in and trying to hijack. This is a nice space to be in. I do think it's important to have those voices too, so that we can shut it down quickly, but not allow it to hijack the entire conversation and make it about and not let us be productive in whatever it is that we're doing or the goals that we have. So I really appreciate the space for now. Right now, I mean, not for now. Thank you.
Yeah, she's got a time watch on thus far. But yeah, and do tweet. I asked this question before to the audience. Would you welcome a strategic strike by Israel on the IRGC or Ali Khamenei's house? Something on those lines. I think Iranians when they're eating mastakhiyar and tadik and stuff often talk about these things. So it's a question, yes or no. Would you welcome strategic strikes by Israel on the IRGC and other facilities in order to somehow weaken them so that a successful revolution could be had? Otherwise, some people say definitely not. Some people say yeah. Who did I say next? I've forgotten now. Oh, we got Cyrus in the house, but I can't translate what Cyrus says. So,
Thank you.
oh, you speak well.
I can. پیروز جان بگو من ترجمه میکنم.
آره البته من داشتم با گوگل مترجم چیز میکنم چون بانو رفت کنم. سپاسگزار از شما و بازم سپاسگزارم. من امشب اولین بار
Hey guys, how you doing? Can
اسپیس
you hear
های
me?
رو دیدم.
Oh, is
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
else going?
Johnny, Cyrus is speaking.
Okay, thank you guys.
باگ خوردن ندارن صدا.
Cyrus, بگو.
What's his name? Pur Sirius. I think the other Cyrus is speaking.
Right, sorry about that. I was gonna say, I think before we even talk about bombs, we should talk
Wait,
about.
Cyrus. It's not your turn, buddy.
Cyrus,
Wait,
Oh,
The
I'm
it's
so
not
others
your
are.
sorry.
Cyrus
I'm
was
so sorry.
speaking.
uh,
I'm so sorry. I got confused. I apologize.
yeah, we all got confused here.
فکر
No,
کنم
don't
باگ
worry,
خوردن
don't worry.
صدای منو ندارن
Don't
درسته؟
worry. You
نه
both
نه
got a
دارن
great
ببخشید.
قاطی
name.
شده.
You
ببخشید.
both have a great name, Cyrus. You know,
ببخشید.
fantastic name.
سیروس
Go
جون
ahead.
بگین، بفرمایید شما، من
من
ترجمه میکنم.
متوجه نشدم، اگه نکته تو صحبتشون هست ترجمه
نه
کنید
نه
لطفا.
نه 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 اشتباه سر اسم و
باشه باشه. اسما شبیه آره، من به انگلیسی میشه سایروس، همون به حساب یونانی
بله بله.
شده کوروشه، اونم به خاطر اینکه زمان شاه بوده همینقدر به ما ارث رسیده، فقط اسم. خدمت شما عرض شود، اینو نگفتم واسه ترجمه، اینو گفتم واسه خودم. ببینید من یک درخواستی از این دوستمون جانی دارم، در صورتی که موافقت داشته باشن از قبل اطلاع رسانی بشه، اگر موافقت داشتن، اگر هم نداشتن که هیچ. چون یک خلایی به هست، من اون اول گفتم، اینکه صدای مردم داخل ایران به افکار عمومی غرب نمیرسه و از نقطه مقابلش هم همینه، به مردم داخل ایران نمیرسه، چون یک سری فقط اسمش چی رسانه‌های موجوده و اینطوری اگر موافقت داشته باشن. در یک اکانتی ما داریم به اسم تالار گفتمان ملی که مدیرش هم خود من هستم، اکانت دست منه. بچه های داخل ایران بیان اونجا که این هم به حساب جواب بدن به سوالات بچه ها و هم چون ترجمه میشه هم به انگلیسی و فارسی قابل استفاده میشه که ما در کشورهایی که هستیم به مقامات محلیمون اینو چیه بدیم گوشش کنن که بتونیم جذبشون کنیم به سمت اینکه آلترناتیو ایران و صدای مردم ایران شنیده بشه. اگر موافقت
متوجه هم. من
آره
یه خلاصه ای به چیزی که متوجه
آره آره
شدم بگم بهتون که تایید بدید بعد ترجمه کنم. منظور اینه که یه اسپیسی داشته باشیم به دو زبانه، انگلیسی و فارسی، که بچه ها ایران بیان، ماهایی هم که اینجا این باشیم، که حالا جانی، شان، بقیه بچه ها باشن، بعد این دوتاش باشه که بعد شما بتونید ازش استفاده کنید، رکوردینگ اسپیس. درسته؟
بله، برای تحویل دادن به مقامات محلی هر کدوم ما تو کشورهایی که هستیم میتونیم روی یوتیوب هم
Okay.
بذاریم، از این
So
اینستاگرام هم بچه.
Johnny, he has a page that they hold spaces, and most of the people who come are people like me that are from Iran, but these people don't speak English, so we can. He wants to have a room with both languages, and so it gets translated from Farsi to English. So the language barrier that has been keeping us from conveying so many messages is not there anymore, and people like him can use it to, give to their representatives as evidence of what is actually going on inside the country. And he wants to know if he would be open to going to a space like that one. And, but having plans from like far ahead for it. So it's planned and everything.
So we've got the Iranian pitch room going on.
Yeah.
If I can, I will. But I come here and every so often. So if I do see it, I will. All power to you. I think Elon Musk is working on something where we can all plug in a chip and be able to speak languages. I would love to go on a rant in Farsi. I would love to do that in a video. Just
With
kick
that
off.
accent?
Yeah, with my accent, with my terrible I have some kind of AI chip, and I can speak fluent Farsi in my dreams.
Farsi, fluent Farsi in
Yeah,
British
no,
accent. That
yeah,
day I
well,
want to see.
yeah,
Uh,
that'd be comedy gold.
Johnny, if
Go
it's
ahead.
planned from like ahead, if it's planned ahead and you're told about, can you be there, like, so I can give him an answer?
I don't want to do Taruf because I don't do Taruf.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to say yes on the spot. I will need to see it, and if I can, I will. But I'm not. I don't want to
Okay.
say something I'm
Okay,
not going to
that's
do.
what I'm gonna tell him then. سیروس شما متوجه شدی یا ترجمه کنم؟ سیروس جان
تا حدودی متوجه شدم ولی نه کامل.
میگه اگه ببینم میام ولی قول نمیتونم بدم، تعارف
نه،
نمیکنم.
به این خاطر گفتیم که از قبل بتونیم بروشورش رو چیز کنیم که بچه ها بیان اتفاقا اگر بتونن مثلا.
متوجه هم من، ولی خب بنده خدا بگه باید
آه،
ببینم که چیه دقیقا که من میام.
دقیقا
به خاطر اون
تایتلش همین که به هر حال
ها با
مردم ایران
چه پیام بدید، به
مثلا
نظرم در قالب یک پیام
فرضاً روی
بنویسید
کار کردن
براش.
آیارجسی تروریست همین الان موضوع بحث داره، موشک پرانی میکنه همه جا. موضوعات این چنینی و همون بحثایی که به هر حال رضا شاه دوم دارن، مثل فشار حداکثری به رژیم و عواملش در کنار حمایت حداکثری از مردم ایران.
نه
اینجور
موضوع
بحثه.
اون نیست. میگه بعد ببینم اگه اون موقع باشم میام
آها،
دیگه. قول 100%
بر اساس
نمیده
وقت
ولی اوکی.
خودشون. خیلی
من
خوب.
پیشنهادم اینه که شما آماده سازی رو انجام بدید و برای ایشون توی دایرکت بفرستید همه
بگم باشید، پس
مطالب
دایرکتشون
رو.
رو باز
آره
بذارم من بفرستم واسهشون. همین
Johnny, if
سپاسگزارم.
you could follow him, he can send you the details in your DM so you know more about it. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, let me think about it. But you're getting good. This is good for you, Ricardo. This translation malarkey. You've gone into the number 10 role, as we would say in football, where you're becoming translator and speaker at the same time. You can't complain now that you've been waiting 3 hours. 3 hours to speak. It's not fucking fair. Let me speak, Johnny. Let me speak. Go
The
ahead.
motherfucker let all of those bullshitistan people talk for hours, and then when it got to me, nope, go to next space. And next space, he asks his questions. I don't get to what I want to say. Anyways,
Go on, Cheyenne. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, guys. Look, speaking of Shia Caliphate, I told you about Shia Caliphate, the IRGC being the SS and this and that. That is what Johnny said and I said, and I defend that again and again. But there is these regimes are. This is a totalitarian dictatorship. It's a It is totalitarianism means they get involved in the totality of individual life. For example, I'm an ex-Muslim. They do care about me being an ex-Muslim, but a secular regime does not give a fuck if I'm an ex-Muslim or not. They do care about schoolgirls, underage children not wearing headscarf. They do care about that, but the normal regime or government does not give a fuck about the dress code of people. So these regimes, totalitarian regimes. I told you all that because that is my point. These regimes are famous. These totalitarian regimes are absolutely corrupt. Absolute corruption. Totalitarianism means absolute corruption. So there is an ideology. When these regimes start to shape and start to establish, the early years, yes, there are dedicated people, loyal people who, there are martyrs, there are loyal heroes and this and that. But gradually, when the totalitarianism of the regime is stabilized and established fully, the regime becomes absolutely corrupt. There is no dedication for the core ideology or school of thought that they first started the regime around that. And that is Shiite Caliphate. They claim now they work for Shiite Caliphate, but they are, even the IRGC is betraying Shiite Caliphate. For example, but by not helping Afghan Shiite people. Millions of, as you know, Afghanistan has millions of Shiite, and they are compromised when it comes to Afghan Shiites. And they are leaving them alone. And these people are leaving Afghanistan to Pakistan and to other countries, and they are left alone. So they don't give a fuck about Afghan Shia.
Shoyam, I have a question on that. So is it true, because I heard this recently, is it true that according to the Shia Caliphate studies, is it true that there cannot be essentially a representative of God, or a so-called supreme leader, before their holy Mehdi comes back? So
Absolutely. Yes.
that's making a supreme leader against the religion.
Absolutely. Look, it's called fiqh. It's called fiqh Shia, which means Shia jurisprudence. And according to Shia Islamic jurisprudence, which is different from the Sunni jurisprudence, the Shia jurisprudence is apocalyptic. They believe in apocalyptic Messiah called Mahdi. And this guy is a guy that, as you know, if you know Shia Islam, this guy is the superhero and Batman and Spider-Man who comes in the time of apocalypse. Okay, but there are hadith from Shiite imams. These are called true hadiths because we have multiple types of hadiths, but these hadiths are true. True means not objectively true, but it's true according to fiqh or jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence. True means that they've been repetitive and recurring in many historical books of Islam. Okay, Shia Islam, in this context, not Sunni. According to many hadiths, especially hadiths of if the fifth Imam of Shia, everyone who claims that is representative of Imam Mahdi, the last Imam, is a kafir, is an infidel, and you should get them and kill them and bring them down. Any regime or entity that does claim that they know the time of apocalypse and the time of Messiah coming, that person must be brought down. That regime must be brought down. So there are, of course, according to the core of Shiite jurisprudence, you are not allowed to identify yourself as a representative or attorney of any Shiite imam, including the last one, who, according to this bullshit cult, is alive and does not need any attorney, because he is the one who's authority. He is the one who's in charge. So he does not need any attorney or speaker. He speaks for himself, not you. If you claim that you are a speaker of that imam, you are a kafir. You are infidel because you are a fraud. According to, for example, Imam Baqir says that, Imam of Shia says, Kazab al-Waqatun is an Arabic phrase. Kazab al-Waqatun means anyone who determines a certain time for Mahdi's coming is infidel. Or anyone who says that they are naib or representative of Mahdi, they are infidel. So that is what the Shia Imam said. One of the Imams said. So what Khamenei and the regime does is not in accordance with or in line with the very core of Shia Islamic jurisprudence. It is against it. And many ayatollahs in the early years of this regime alarmed Khomeini that what you are doing is against the the Shia Islamic jurisprudence, because you are saying that you are bringing a velayat faqih, which means, according to Shia jurisprudence, there should not be a velayat faqih, because faqihs are people who are you are going to be you should be able to choose to which one you're going to follow. If your ability and option to choose is taken away from you by a government to choose which ayatollah you're gonna follow as a mentor, then it means there is no freedom of fatwa, and there is no point for releasing a fatwa, because there is a government telling these ayatollahs, and their fatwas are compromised, and they are not independent of government. They're not independent of each other. There is a concept in Shia Islam called taqlid. Taqlid, in order to taqlid means following. Following who? Following the ayatollahs, the priests. If priests are not free to release their own fatwa based on their own interpretation of Shia Islamic jurisprudence, if they're not free to release their own fatwa, and there is a velayat, which means an Islamic a dictatorship over them, there's a guardian over them telling them what to release as a fatwa, then it means there is no freedom of fatwa. When there is no freedom of fatwa, it means it's a breach of Shia Islamic jurisprudence, that's a paradox, and that is not allowed. So what they're doing, this regime, the very concept and very core of this regime is against Shia Islamic jurisprudence. According to Ayatollahs like Ayatollah Shariat Madari, who is the one who made Khomeini an Ayatollah. He was the mentor of who released a decree and made Khomeini an Ayatollah. When Islamic Republic was shaped and established, one of the first Ayatollahs who objected the creation of Islamic Republic and Vilayat Faqih, or the dictatorship of Faqih, he was one of the first ones who objected and rejected and said that's not Islamic, that's against Shia jurisprudence. He was one of the three major ayatollahs after Ayatollah Burujerdi, who was the grand ayatollah and like the pope of Shia Islam. He died in I think in 69 something, and after him there were three ayatollahs. This guy Shariat Madari was one of them, and they were the guys. The triangle was run. They were the popes. They were not as big as Burujerdi, but these guys were. And the guy Shariat Madari made Khomeini an Ayatollah, and if it wasn't for him, Khomeini would have been executed by Savak, because an Ayatollah cannot be a pope, a person who's somebody, a body of population is following him, cannot be executed because it is a religious thing. It's according to religious freedom or something bullshit like that. So that is a guy who prevented execution of Khomeini. But the same guy, after the establishment of Islamic Republic, rejected Islamic Republic and said that it is against the Shia Islamic jurisprudence, and there should be a freedom of fatwa for us because we want to be independent of a velayat, which means a guardian, as somebody who controls us. It should not be there. So, and there were other ayatollahs. For example, Ayatollah Abul Faz Borghei. This guy was assassinated 2 times by this regime because of the same thing he said. He said that this regime is against Islamic jurisprudence, and we should be allowed to release our own fatwa. And many other ayatollahs were against this regime, but all of them got purged, all of them got detained, all of them got executed, assassinated. Some of them fled the country, and some of them live in foreign countries. For example, Ayatollah Sadeghi, Ayatollah this and that. So that's it. That's the regime is against against the it's not in line with the Islamic jurisprudence, as you said, Sean, but that was not what I was talking about. You just directed my everything, my talking point to something else, but thank you very much. That is something informative.
Thank you, Sharon. I always feel I learned something from you. When it comes to all of this and these individuals and stuff, they're a fucking happy bunch, aren't they? Not. Why didn't they create their own state called Shiitistan? Maybe Shiitistan. That could be something for them. They can all go there. Cyrus.
But then it would be called Shiats.
Okay, so is it me this time?
Yeah, it is, Cyrus.
Okay, all right. I was just gonna say about the bombs thing that there's about 1,000 steps that can be taken before we can start talking about bombs. We still have to enforce our sanctions. We still need to sanction Khamenei, and some people dismiss people talking about sanctions helping the Ayatollahs, and they often get dismissed in spaces. But I think the average Joe still thinks that sanctions hurt people more than the regime, and that we should talk about it. The biggest question I have is what sanctions? It's not the 16 billion that was released this year to help Iranian people, or the 90 billion that was released over the course of Biden's presidency. None of that helped Iranian people. All that resulted in was more bombs for Syria, bombs for Iraq, bombs for Hamas, whatever. So we can talk about maximum support and maximum pressure first before we even consider the idea of bombs dropping. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate your comments. Welcome to the room as well. Yes, Thunderstorm, I see you. Go ahead. Let's have some thunder. No, Thurston. Sorry, Thurston Howell III. I love saying that name. It never grows old. Over to you. Over to you. You just need to unmic. Just click it twice.
Thurston, bottom left. Bottom left.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's a great name because it pisses off the liberals. Just wanted to touch on something. When Johnny, you asked the question about should there be a military strike? Absolutely, because if we look at the history of 1979, there was Western forces, Western countries who were helping these degenerates with their movement, with their support, whether it be through funding, or it would be through weapons, or it would be through support. An example would be Sadiq Gobzadeh. He was here in the United States while most of it was going on, and somehow he got with people he reached people in the Carter administration. And we know about Gobzadeh that he was the guy that actually flew and escorted the Ayatollah to Iran and walked him down the plane and welcomed him in. So I think there needs to be definitely outside intervention. The problem that I see, and I could be wrong, who am I, is that many of these Western countries that have benefited